Hello, in this video I want to talk about compounding. So basically how to grow your wealth um, from like a small amount to a bigger amount and see how it works and the magic behind it. So let's simply start with a quote from Albert Einstein, which says that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pay it. So I think it's a really good like simple explanation of it, so it can really benefit you, but at the same time it can really go against you if you do the wrong thing. And that's what I want to talk about in the next slide. So just simply coming back to the summary, I will be talking about like how compounding works, or how it can make you rich and financially free, but at the same time as well wanted to talk about like how you can retire and take advantage of it, so including the cost and everything. So here is actually how compounding works. So imagine you have a $10,000 account and you earn 8% return. So think of it like this would be not what bank would give you, because it would be like 5% or less. But imagine you have ETFs, or just you don't expect much return, but still around 8%, which is the average. So you will see the first year getting like 800, and then the next year getting like 1664, which is so 800 times 2, and then you have extra because it start to compound. So 10,800, 8% of that will be 864, and then after the year after you will have the same, like you will have like 11,664, and then you would do another 8% on that. And the further you go in time, the more you will actually get more interest. And what's interesting is when you go after on 10 years, so this is 10 years, you can see that the interest is already 2 times what you put in, more than 2 times. And when it's 20 years, you can't see because of my video, but like in 20 years it's literally like 5 times 46,000, and you only put 10, so at least 5 times. So here let's get another example with 20%. So when you look at the 20% return compared to 8%, that's a little bit more like a stretch, but in terms of value investing, I would say that this is a reasonable amount to get if you compare with what Warren Buffett did and most people into the value investing world. I would say that 15-20% is really possible. Of course it requires a lot of time spent, but it just to show the difference, how much faster you could actually be compounding. So if you have a 10,000, we can't even see in the first 5 years, but basically in year 5 we will get already like 15,000 for 10,000, and then like because it compounds a lot faster, and you could quickly see after 10 years you're already more than 6 times, versus the other one was 2-3 times. And then like literally like 400, nearly 400,000 for only putting 10,000 after 20 years. So it shows that the like few first year you wouldn't really get a big return, but then over the years it really compounds. And that's, I would say, is the power of it. But you would want to be cautious as well and understand that it works both ways. So as much as this could be great when you invest money, if you were to borrow money or like have a credit card and all that, and then just start with $10,000 credit card with a 15%, and then the year after you do the same thing where you like stay the same amount, never pay it back, and then keep compounding, you would actually get the exact same result in reverse. and this is really not something you would want to do. When you buy a house, I would say it's the same idea. Even though you live in it and obviously you pay it back, which is a good thing, if you don't have a capital gain on it, it's the same idea. Your interest is a lot, especially at the beginning, and then go lower. So I'm not saying not to buy a house or anything, but just to be very cautious that if you do the wrong thing, you will get really a bad return, and if you do the right thing, it could help you like enormously. And borrowing money can be great, but at the same time it can be bad. It just depends on if you get a 50% interest to pay. Obviously, you won't be doing great, but if you have a very low percentage interest paid back, then you will do well. But it works the opposite as well. If you get a great return, you get paid well, but if you get a low return, it will work, but it will take a long time. So this part is the idea of when to retire. So I wanted to start with the 8% as well, of a basic like FIRE idea where you would retire a little bit early. And what I found interesting by looking at that is that you don't, like, you may need a lot of money, but sometimes you don't need as much as you expect. Everyone think you need millions and millions to retire. It just depends the life you want to live. Like, if you really want to live a very simple life, live in a van, and just like have very, very low cost, you probably don't need much, maybe 50,000, 100,000. I don't really know, but I'm just saying that everyone expects that we need a lot to stop working or to live or to do whatever we wanted to do in our life. And sometimes we realize that we don't really need that much. But let's start with an example where you've been very cautious. You saved like $1 million. Of course, I just exclude all the retirement and all that. I just give you a basic idea to understand how compounding works. So if you have $1 million and let's say your cost is around $50,000 per year. Obviously I don't have the number in the interest there, but like let's say you take the 8% return on 1 billion, you will get 80,000. So if you see the 80,000 minus 50,000, you will still get 30 extra. So with that 30 extra, it still would compound. And then because of the cost is actually stable, then you would actually still be able to even live a little bit better over the time with that amount, with 8% return. So in this case, we don't include inflation or anything, but it's just to get an idea on like, maybe you could actually retire on 1 million if your costs were 50,000. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't want that, but I'm just trying to explain how it works. As you can see, with a 20% return and keeping the same amount of 50,000, you could clearly see that you don't need much. So in this example, I didn't even take 1 million. I took only 500,000, and because it's 20% return, the first year you already make 100,000. So 100,000 will already be more than the 8% on 1 million. So it shows that, like, even with that, if your cost is only 50, you can literally add another 50,000. So 550 for the next year. I didn't add it here, but like I included, like you can clearly see that your interest really increase much faster than your cost. So you could obviously spend more if you wanted, but it shows that like over time, if you could return 20%, you wouldn't actually need as much as you would expect. And that's what I found very interesting, like studying a bit compounding recently, is that we always think that we struggling, that we need to work another 20 years, that we need to really work hard because we never know in the future. But if we understand how to get a good return on investment, having the right stock, and we know that we could achieve 8% or 20% or more, then you could see that actually retirement is not that far away if you work properly for 10 years and you continue to like you start compounding by stock and stuff. You could literally retire in 10 years and just take care of your investment. But obviously if you only make 4%, even like sometimes 2-3 million would be a little bit low, because maybe the inflation would be too high and it would actually like reduce your whole wealth. So yeah, it just like, it's very interesting, because I expected it to be like a, you know, everyone need to retire at some point or whatever amount, but actually it's super different on everyone. It just depends what they want to do, how much time they have, do they even want to retire. And yeah, I thought, yeah, that's actually interesting. But if you do want to retire early, I would say that this is really important, and if you don't follow that properly, then you would not be able to retire early in most cases, unless you really making really like good salary. Yeah. So as a conclusion for this video, what I wanted to explain is how you can do those calculations. So I've just shown you a very brief idea of how it works and stuff, but I would say if you really want to have in-depth and play around with calculators, just Google and search for compound interest calculator. I didn't pick one because there are like so many and you can just play around with it. But I would say if you really want to go in depth and really add your cost, play around with the percentage a bit better, I would recommend to use Excel. It's a bit more precise. The compound interest calculator online are very basic, and I would say it has its limitation. So thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you have any comments. Thank you.